Howdy, and welcome to Mo's World, the Baseball Podcast. We're excited to bring you another episode where we chat about baseball like a group of friends hanging out at the bar. Awesome. In our 21st episode, let's talk about GMs and managers on the hot seat. We also want to express a big thank you to all our loyal listeners for your ongoing support. For those that are new here, thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoy the show. And don't forget our graphical view on our YouTube site for a little more in-depth kind of crap. Alrighty, so what do we got? Managers in question. Let's start off with that one. And I'm going to start it off over in Pittsburgh. The Pittsburgh Pirates' Derek Shelton. Now, he signed a contract extension with the Pirates last year. Now, terms, I never really got the terms. They were undisclosed. But earlier in the season, it looked like Pittsburgh was a legitimate wild card threat. However, I was totally disappointed with the Pirates' collapse in the second half of the season. They were an exciting team, but their offense ranked near the bottom in most categories. And as a young team that finished second in the league, with over 1,500 strikeouts, this is not a good sign. The team needs some veteran leadership. And who is the leader of this team? Is it Bryan Reynolds or, up-and-coming Oneil Cruz? Unfortunately, they don't make enough contact and they struggle to stay competitive in games. And I'm going to say that Derek Shelton is being watched for the coming season. All right. We got his eyes on him. Now, over in Cincinnati, David Bell of the Reds. Now, he was fired, right? Now, he was on my watch list. Now, the Reds had much higher expectations for this past year, and they merely were hovering around 500. In a competitive division, they were anticipated to achieve a much better win-loss record. With a run differential of +5 for the season, their struggles were evident. I mean, especially in one-run games, where they had a disappointing record of 15-28. Additionally, they experienced 16 shutout losses. Now, the Reds deemed David Bell's leadership inadequate moving forward, and I totally agree. But they gave him nearly $5 million to part ways. They paid him to leave. Now, sources pretty much revealed that the Reds owe Bell $4.9 million over the next 2 years, after extending his contract for 3 years at $7.2 million last summer. So Bell's contract was terminated on Sunday, September 22nd, and the Reds did not take long to find his replacement. The former manager had 6 seasons at the helm, but aside from a playoff appearance during the pandemic-shortened 2020 season, Cincinnati didn't reach the Major League Baseball postseason under his management. And Terry Francona was announced as the Reds' new manager for this coming year. That's a surprising pick. And on one hand, many believe that Tito was finished due to health concerns. And, there you go. You never know. On the other hand, though, Tito embodies the essence of a true baseball person. And after spending 1 year away from the game, the itch to return obviously became too strong. And now he's back in Cincinnati. And quite literally the home to professional baseball. So let's keep an eye on the Reds this year and how they turn out. Now, somebody else on the watch list. This is an old one here, but I'm going to put him on anyway to make it official. Aaron Boone, New York Yankees. Now, the Yankees had their management staff hold the future of the team in their hands. Since 2009 was a long time ago, especially considering that it was their last World Series appearance, the pressure is on the New York Yankees. Apart from Aaron Judge and Juan Soto, the 2024 offense was inconsistent and predictable. On the bright side, their team ERA was the second best in the American League, and they ranked third in opponents' batting average. There remains to be a concern about the lack of genuine prospects as opposed to mere suspects. But that's the Yankees for you, right? The 2025 season it will bring many questions. And that playoff run didn't provide any answers at all. Fans should be prepared for another round of Cashman and Boone in leadership roles. But both Cashman and Boone are running out of excuses and must deliver a winning team. Aaron Boone, I'm going to say he's being watched once again. Down in Miami, the Miami Marlins. Wow, Skip Shoemaker. Now, this is a bit of a twist. It's not so much that the Marlins did not retain Skip Shoemaker, but he chose to leave the Marlins. So the last week of the season, it was announced that he would not be returning as manager. Instead, he joined the Texas Rangers as senior advisor to the president of baseball operations. That's some title, right? It basically suggests he could be in line to take over as manager once Bruce Bochy decides to step down. At 44 years old, Schumacher had a team option for 2025 that he negotiated out of his contract, making him basically a free agent at the end of the season. Like the Marlins didn't see this coming. So Skip Shoemaker, he escaped Miami. So let's watch and see what develops in Texas with that. I'm sorry. I was going to say up and hiccup at the same time. All right, John Schneider, Toronto Blue Jays. I don't know. Blue Jays are always on the fence here, right? It's another disappointing year for the consistently underachieving Blue Jays. And they're running out of time. They fired Charlie Montoya 3 years ago. They've made the postseason a couple times, but, as wild card exits. Swift ones, too. I don't really have anything bad or good to say about Schneider, except as the owners, they can't fire the team. So more than likely, I think he's gone this year. Now, over in Chicago, the Cubs? No. The White Sox. Oh, my God. Grady Sizemore and the Chicago White Sox. So his status was interim manager, and that didn't last long this offseason, as the White Sox recently hired former Major Leaguer Will Venable as their new manager. After taking over for fired Pedro Grifol in August, it's hard to say what Sizemore could have done other than continue to just ride out a shitty situation in Chicago. The White Sox had an historically poor season, and that's to say the least. The clubhouse atmosphere was toxic, the team was ineffective, it resembled the bad news bears of the major leagues. Now, blaming the future and the failure on Grady Sizemore, that seems unreasonable, but one has to wonder if he was overwhelmed by the challenge. This team is so far from being competitive that the best managerial choice might have been to promote Sergio Santos from the AA Birmingham Barons. And after all, what experienced manager would want to take over such a shit show like the White Sox? Nonetheless, we should all wish Will Venable the best of luck because he is going to need it. Now, St. Louis Cardinals. I don't know. I'm always used to the Cardinals putting a competitive team on the field. There's always something about the Cardinals. They know when to get rid of guys. They know when to get them. They have that knack, no one really expected them to part ways with Pujols, after 10 years of having phenomenal results, but they got rid of him at the right time, So you can't knock the Cardinals. Then they've undergone, such significant organizational change by hiring Shane Bloom as the team's new president of baseball operations. Now, Bloom previously spent 14 years with the Tampa Bay Rays from 2005 to 2019, and he established himself as, a leading front office executive. So, following his time with the Rays, he served as chief baseball officer for the Boston Red Sox until he was dismissed from them in September 14th of 2023. After that, he became an advisor to John Mosaic, and that allowed him, I think, to gain a deeper knowledge of the Cardinals organization. Additionally, I believe manager Oliver Marmol should also be considered on the hot seat in St. Louis. After another disappointing season, it's uncertain where the Cardinals are headed. There's rumors circulating about a potential sell-off of the talent, and that decision could have, that may have saved Momo's job. If they're going to be selling off, they're not going to be looking for a manager to basically win, right? So we'll have to see. I'm going to say that this is to be determined on what they do with Shane Bloom. Now, we got Chicago Cubs. They're in here too. Now, the Cubs have made several coaching staff firings. First base coach Mike Napoli, former Major League Baseball catcher, they fired him. Hitting coach Jim Adducci, he's a former Major League Baseball outfielder, fired him. The bullpen coach Darren Holmes, former Major League Baseball pitcher, so they fired him as well. And multiple strength coaches have already been reportedly let go. Chicago, they had a so-so 2024 season under new manager Craig Counsell. They finished at 83-79, and they put together an offense that ranked in the bottom half of Major League Baseball. It ended up missing the postseason for a fourth consecutive year, and I'm going to say that they're under watch too. There's something that's going on there. I've heard a lot of rumors coming out of Chicago this year on what they're going to do with Bellinger, even though that Bellinger's, picked up his option, but I think they want to move him. I really do. So we've also got next long-tenured GMs who I believe are on a thread. They may be running out of time. So where do we have to start with this? Got to start at the longest one. Brian Cashman and the Yankees. He's been a GM since February 3rd, 18. Seems like that. 1998. So under Cashman's leadership, the Yankees have achieved 22 postseason appearances in 26 seasons. I think most would be pretty thrilled with that, but being the New York Yankees, winning 4 World Series titles and 7 American League pennants during that time is just not enough. Although New York's substantial budget provides Cashman with an advantage in assembling a roster, it is, still impressive that the team has not experienced a losing season throughout his tenure. So in spite of that, he's on the hot seat because New York fans want to win. And for that reason, I got to say that he's on the hot seat. Now, over in the Blue Jay world again, Mark Shapiro of the Blue Jays. He's been up there since August 31st, 2015. He joined the Blue Jays late in the 2015 season. And, at that point, they were on the verge of breaking a 22-year playoff drought. So after earning an ALCS berth in 2016, the Jays experienced some lean years, in the COVID-shortened 2020 season. Then they returned back to the playoffs in 2022 after winning 92 games, but they have not really performed well. I'm going to put him in the hot seat. Now, up in Minnesota, Derek Falvey. He's been with the Twins since October 3rd, 2016. It's funny how these guys are long-standing GMs, right? Okay, goes to show you. So, Falvey was hired as the top decision maker in the Twins baseball operations department after the 2016 season, when Minnesota finished last in the Central with a Major League Baseball worst record of 59-103. So, making one move this trading deadline did not make any points with the fans. And the Twins imploded this September. And I do think Falvey is a short timer because of that. When you're a GM and you do nothing but watch your team crash and burn with the same often injured players and stating the same old story, hey, I believe you're gone. So he's on a real hot seat. So what can get hotter than the hot seat? Just the axe list. These guys should be let go. And when I was in post-production with this episode, the San Francisco Giants came to my mind. You know, you were asking, what the hell are the Giants doing? You know, they seem to be buying at the trade deadline one year, selling the next. They throw wads of cash at players in the offseason, only to fail time again. You know, does this team have a plan? More importantly, you know, did Farhan Zaidi have a plan? I would say he didn't have a clue. And I wasn't impressed with him as general manager, and I'm glad they got rid of him. You know, on the topic of disappointment, Bob Melvin, to me, has also failed to impress. I'd fire him too. You know, it's time to create a plan and execute it, and wait, they did. The end of the season on the 30th, the Giants announced that they would part ways with Farhan after 6 frustrating seasons. Franchise legend and part owner Buster Posey was named the club's new president of baseball operations, and Bob Melvin is expected to remain as manager. So for now, this seems like a smart move on the Giants. Let's see what else develops with this, especially with Melvin. Now, the Los Angeles Angels. Oh my God, what can we say about them? Perry Minasian, how do you pronounce his last name? I'm always screwing that up. Perry Minasian, he's had a rough season to say the least. Starting from Anthony Rendon stating he doesn't really like playing 162 games, nor is he ever healthy enough to attempt it. The continued downfall of Mike Trout, the Angels refusing to revamp their minor league farm system, has them spiraling. Artie Moreno has undoubtedly played a major role here, and it's unclear how much autonomy Perry has when it comes to trading controllable players. But Minasian feels, you know, I think he's a goner with poor deadline decisions. So after saying all this, the Angels extended his contract through the 2026 season. Minasian will be experiencing his upcoming 5th season in Anaheim. And this team has a bad vibe, you know? Mike Trout recently bashed Artie Moreno, and I had a problem with that. I mean, are you kidding me? Mike, wake up. When your star player has played 319 out of 967 games since 2020 and is making $37 million per year through 2030, all I can say is, shit, you need to be quiet. You know, and then you add on Anthony Rendon playing 257 out of a possible 967 in the same period and making $38.5 million. You know, that's $76 million being wasted on leadership and players not on the field. You can't have a team revolve around 2 players who are never on the field. The Angels have no identity, no good vibe. They're a poison. You know, if I've said this, episode 10, right? I'm the owner. I'm trading Mike Trout to the Phillies for 20-year-old number 5 prospect of the Phillies, Bryan Reynolds, shortstop, 19-year-old number 16 prospect, Alexis De La Cruz, who's a starting pitcher, along with $10 million a year for the remaining contract that runs through 2037, and poof, get rid of him. Rendon, his ass would be DFA'd on April 1st, just before the season, to fuck him up for his lazy-ass, wise-ass comments. I don't believe the current GM has the balls to do this. I don't know why they extended him. And, well, as long as we're on the West Coast, let's go up to Seattle. The Seattle Mariners and Jerry Dipoto. Now, Dipoto served as general manager since 2015, and teams are always looking to strengthen their pitching. And the 2024 Mariners excelled in that department. They finished with a team ERA of 3.49, the best in the American League. The starting pitchers led the league with an impressive 3.38 ERA. The rotation had Logan Gilbert, 9-12 with a 323. George Kirby, 14-11 with a 353. Bryce Miller, he was 12-8 with a 294. And Luis Castillo, who ended the season 11-12 and had a 364 himself. Each of these starters made at least 30 starts and pitched over 175 innings. The bullpen was also, major contributions with standout performances from them too. So, you mean that staff did not make the playoffs? Oh, how was the offense? What offense? They had 676 runs scored, averaging 4.17 a game. That was 10th out of 15 teams in the American League. 224 batting average. That was also 14 out of 15 teams. Their strikeouts led the American League. What did it all mean? That they can't hit for shit, and they're not clutch at all. Once again, you cannot have a league-leading pitching staff in this day and age and not make the playoffs. Sorry, simple fact, Jerry, you are fired. Oh, and at least they got it right by firing manager Scott Servais on August 22nd during the season. He did nothing to help that team win. They couldn't score, wasting the pitching, like I said. So we'll have to see if Dan Wilson is going to be an improvement. Now over in Chicago, once again, Chris Getz, the GM from the Chicago White Sox. So, what? Sorry, Chris. After 2 consecutive years of over 100 losses and setting the record this year with 121, it's more than frustrating. You guys downright suck. Getz has only been the GM since August 31, 2023. So the last 2 hard years, he's very familiar with. And he's been the White Sox previously with them as assistant GM in 21 to 2023. He was the director of player development. And so whatever the plan is to improve this team, he knows the players. Just for the sheer fact of being the GM of a 121-loss team with no clear plan for improvement that they're advertising, you're on the danger list of being watched. So we'll have to see with that. Now, what else do we have? I'm going to make it official and put Brian Cashman on the hot seat. But my personal take on this is, if I was the owner of the New York Yankees, I'm making money and spending money. A lot of it. Now, after this disappointing performance of the Yankees in the World Series, I got to be saying, is it time for a change? Seriously, this season could see massive alterations to the roster and lineup, all depending on what goes on with the Soto situation and how they, re-put this team together. The Yankees have questions at virtually every position. First base, second base, shortstop, third base, catcher, left field, and right field. That's basically the entire team. So, seriously wonder if a new general manager might feel overwhelmed by that situation. Especially, I'm not sure who'd even be considered for this role. However, I believe the 2025 team could be drastically different from the one that just participated in the World Series. So this year's team was overhyped, inconsistent, and performed poorly. I hold the manager accountable for this kind of a performance, and I would just part ways with Aaron Boone. Fuck it. I'm firing Cashman as well. So do the Yankees stay internal for the next GM? Is Kevin Reese, who is now the vice president of player development, or Michael Fishman, who is the vice president and assistant GM, are they the ones? Do you leave Cashman in charge as a dead man walking and have Kevin Reese amp up his responsibilities and being comfortable with the changes soon to be made? Do you have him take over in 2026 when Cashman's contract expires? It's all a thought, right? That pretty much sums up all the axes to fall. So let's see who survives this offseason. I hope you enjoyed our 21st episode of Mo's World, the baseball podcast. Now, don't forget, our off-season schedule is still for 2 per month until spring training. The first Friday of the month and the last Friday of the month, each about 20 minutes. So thanks for listening. Please spread the word to your friends. And the next episode will be on December 27th, and we will be discussing Hall of Fame voting and Pete Rose. In the meantime, ask yourself, whose world is it? It's Mo's world.